Welcome back guys. In this video, we are going to cover lambda function, map function, filter function and type conversion using list and tuple function. So let's get started. First of all, let us discuss lambda functions. Lambda functions are short anonymous functions which are written in one line using the keyword lambda. These do not have a name like any other ordinary function. Their syntax is like this. First of all, we mention the keyword lambda followed by arguments, then a colon mark, and then we write an expression. Let us see an example. So guys, I'm inside ideally and now we are going to discuss some examples of lambda functions. Suppose that I want to add two numbers, let's say x and y. These are the names of parameters. Then a normal function definition would look something like this. So x plus y will be returned inside a function called sum. And if I want to now print the result, then in that case I will have to call the function with some arguments, let's say 9 and 8, which will act as values for x and y, and then I press enter and I get the sum as 17. Now same thing can be done using lambda function also, but this time I will have to assign my lambda function to a variable. Let's call this variable as total, and then I am going to define my lambda function to add two values. So first of all I have to mention the keyword lambda. After that I will mention the arguments, and my arguments will be x and y, and what I am doing inside this function, I am simply adding x with y. Now in order to call this function, I will have to specify the name of the variable, which is total, and then I will pass my values, let's say 9, 8 once again, and once again I got value 17 as the output. Now let us suppose that I want to find the square of a number. Then I am taking a variable here called square and I will assign it lambda, then x, you can take any variable name. So x raised to power 2 will be the expression, and in the next line I can call this function using square, and here I pass any number whose square I want, and in this case I got square of 3 as 9. Similarly, you can call this function as many times as you like. So let's say I am once again calling this function with value 4 this time, and I got square of 4 as 16. Now let us understand what are higher order functions. Higher order functions are those functions that take other functions as arguments. Examples include map and filter functions. But guys, before diving into the concept of higher order functions, which include the map and filter function, I would like to introduce here an important concept of type conversion using list and tuple functions. So type conversion is helpful when you need to change the behavior of your data, such as making it mutable by converting a tuple to a list, or immutable by converting a list to a tuple. For this purpose, we have two important methods called list and tuple methods, which allow us to convert one type of collection to another. Let's see a few examples. So guys, let us suppose that I have a list called my list containing three values, let's say 1, 2 and 3. Now I am going to convert it into a tuple. Let's name this tuple as my tuple, and here I will put tuple method. Inside this I will pass the name of my list, and in the next line I will print my tuple, and here this list has been converted into a tuple. Now if you try to make changes to my tuple, that would not be allowed because we have converted a mutable data to immutable data. Moving on, now let us suppose that I have a tuple called tuple 1 containing a few values, let's say 2, 3 and 4, and now I am going to convert this tuple into a list using the list function. So here I will pass the name of my tuple, which is tuple 1, and when I print this list, you can see that this tuple has been converted into a list. So this is how list and tuple functions are quite useful for converting the data from mutable to immutable or vice versa. Alright, let's move on to talk about map function. In Python, the map function is a built-in function that applies a given function to each item of an iterable, such as a list or a tuple, and returns an iterator, which can then be converted to a list. Its syntax is like this. First of all, we mention the name of the function, which is map, and inside this function we have to pass two arguments, which include a lambda function and an iterable. Let's see how it works through an example. I am back inside Ideally, and here we are going to see how map function works. So first of all, I have taken a list of numbers. I'll call this list as numbers, and inside this I have stored 5 numbers. Now I am going to apply the map function to find the square of each of these values inside the list, and I will store the result into a variable called result. So I will assign this variable the map function, and inside the map function I will have to first pass my lambda function. It will take one variable as an argument, let's say x, and then I will put a colon here. I have to find the square of every number, so I will write here x raised to power 2, put a comma, and then I will pass the name of my list, which is numbers, close the bracket and press enter key. In the next line, if I print result directly, you will notice that the output is not as expected. Here we got an output, and Python tells me that this is a map object which is stored at this particular memory location inside my computer. But I wanted an actual output containing the square of each of these values. So in order to get that, we will have to first convert the result into a list using the list function, and that was the purpose of discussing type conversion before discussing map function. After converting this result into a list, if I now press enter, then I have received the output as expected. So square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 4, square of 3 is 9, square of 4 is 16, and square of 5 is 25. Now let us take another example. Suppose this time I want to add 1 to each of these values inside my list numbers. Then also I can apply map function. Let's call this result as result 2, and I will assign it the map function, and once again inside this map function I will pass my lambda function with an argument, let's say x, and after that I will put a colon, and here I am incrementing the value of x by 1. Then I will put a comma, and here I will pass the name of my list, which is numbers. Now here only I am going to convert this result into a list. So I have applied the list function outside the map function. Now if I print result 2, then I will directly receive the result as a list. So 1 is incremented by 1, it becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5, and 5 becomes 6. So I hope you understood how map function works in Python. Let's now understand filter function. In Python, the filter function applies a function to an iterable such as a list or a tuple and returns only the elements for which the function returns true. Its syntax is also similar to that of a map function. Here we write the keyword filter, and inside the function we pass two arguments, where first argument is the name of the function or the lambda function, and the second argument is an iterable. Now let us see how filter function works in Python. Suppose this time I have a list called numbers having 8 values, and now I want to find which of these are even numbers. Then I will apply filter function to this list and store the result in a variable called even numbers, and I assign it the filter function, which includes a lambda function. So lambda x, here I have to check if the number is divisible by 2, and if the remainder is equal to 0, then that number is considered as even, otherwise not. And then I will pass the name of my list, which is numbers. I will also convert this entire result into a list, or you can convert it into a tuple, that's your wish. And now I am going to print the result, which is even numbers, using print function, and here I got all the even numbers in this list, which include 2, 4, 6 and 8. Now that we have discussed both map and filter functions, the question arises, can we combine map and filter functions together? Yes, it is very much possible. Let us see an example. Suppose that once again I am taking this list of numbers, and here I want to see which of these are even numbers, and then after finding the even numbers I will apply map function to find the square of all the even numbers found in this list. For that purpose I will have to use both map and filter functions. So let us see how it will work. This time I am going to store the result into a variable called squares, and here I want to apply map function, and my map function says that I want to find the square of all numbers. So lambda x and x raised to power 2 comma, and now I want to find the square of only even numbers from this list numbers. So here I will apply filter function, and inside this function once again I have to pass a lambda function, let's say lambda y, and I am saying that y is divisible by 2 and gives remainder 0, only then it is considered as an even number. And then I will pass the name of my list, which is numbers. I will close the outer bracket for map function, and my result should be in the form of a list. So once again I have to apply list function outside both these functions. Now if I print squares, then you will see that I am getting only the square of 2, 4, 6 and 8. So square of 2 is 4, square of 4 is 16, square of 6 is 36 and square of 8 is 64. So this is the way to combine map and filter functions together in one line. Well everyone, till now we have worked only with lambda functions inside map and filter functions. But can we apply ordinary functions also? Well, of course you can. So here I have a list called myList containing a few numbers as shown over here. And now I am going to create an ordinary function, let's call it as square. I am passing one parameter as x inside this and return here x raised to power 2. So my function is ready. Now I am going to apply map function to it to print the result. So let's say my output 1 is the variable that will store the result of applying map function. So here I will type map, and the name of my function is square, put a comma, and then pass the name of the list, which is my list, and I will also have to convert the output to a list. So once again I will apply list function here, and then I will print here output 1, and you can see all of these numbers have been squared in the output. Same thing you can do with filter function also. Let's filter out those numbers which are greater than, let's say, 100. So in this case I am saying greater than, and that is the name of the function. Let's say the parameter name is y, and here I will return y greater than 100. That is what I want to return from this function. Now I will store the result in another variable, let's say output 2, and I will apply here the filter function. I will pass the name of my function, which is greater than, and I will put a comma, and then I will pass the result of output 1. So output 1 will be passed because that contains the list of all the numbers which have been squared. And here I will apply list function once again to convert the output to a list, and then I will print the result which is stored in output 2, and all the numbers in this list which are greater than 100 have been displayed on the screen. So I hope you understood the entire concept of map and filter functions. So guys, I am ending this video with a few practice exercises. Please try them on your own, and if you have any queries or doubts, then mention in the comments below. I will surely answer them. Also, if you found this video helpful or useful for your studies, then please give it a thumbs up, mention in the comments below how you are liking this course, and also subscribe my channel. Please keep me motivated. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.